Hello, this is Pat. This is my second video in a series of videos that I plan on doing as a response to a gentleman named James Baber with a channel devoted to defeating Adventism. So in this series, I'm addressing small topics that he brings up, reviewing what he has to say, and giving feedback. Let's see what he thinks.
So, is the Jesus of the Seventh-day Adventist Church the Jesus of the Bible? Sad to say, no, he's not.
All right, in this particular video, James is going to discuss the difference between the Melchizedek order and the Levitical priesthood, and whether or not if Jesus is the proper Jesus of the Bible according to the Seventh-day Adventist Church based on the garments they portray him in. Let's see what he has to say.
Jesus in Seventh-day Adventism, if you look in their literature and their articles, they have him dressed up as a Levitical priest. That's not the Jesus of the Bible. The Jesus of the Bible, if you read the genealogy in Matthew chapter 1 and verse 3 specifically, Jesus is from the tribe of Judah. He can't be dressed as a Levitical priest, which is the tribe of Levi. They have it wrong. They got the wrong Jesus. Jesus is a high priest, but high priest is a title. He's a high priest after the order of Melchizedek, not Levi. So they have it wrong there too. Do not follow the Jesus of Seventh-day Adventism. He will lead you astray because he's fake and false.
So there's a couple of problems with this. Number one, he says that they got it wrong there too, which implies that they do not recognize that Jesus is from the order of Melchizedek because of the way they have him dressed. That's false. That's not correct. One thing I want to point out first is that the reason that I don't like why they have him drawn up that way is mostly how they came to that conclusion, and that's through the visions of Ellen White. When it comes to her visions and dreams, I usually am a little hesitant to consider those types of things because there are a handful of issues that I have with her visions and dreams that the church cannot address, unfortunately. But when it comes to this one in particular, I don't see why there's an issue with Jesus being dressed with that particular outfit from the tribe of Levi or the Aaronic priesthood. Because if you stop and consider, what is it that Jesus is doing as our great high priest in the heavenly sanctuary? If you go to the Old Testament, in Exodus, when the priesthood is actually presented and they start to dress like that, the great high priest would actually go in annually with the blood to make an atonement for the people's sin. Well, you go back to Hebrews 7 through 9, which is where we're actually discussing the difference between the Melchizedek order and the priesthood of Levi. Well, Jesus is actually described as doing the tasks of the great high priest from the Levitical order. So he's being a little disingenuous there when you consider the fact that in the Holy of Holies, in the sanctuary in heaven, Jesus is actually doing the tasks of a Levitical priest. Therefore, I personally have no problem with him being depicted as dressed in that manner, because he's doing those tasks of a priest of that order. Don't get me wrong, that does not make him a priest of the Levites. He's the priest after the order of Melchizedek. It's plain and clear as day. No one can misinterpret that in any way, because Hebrews 7 through 9 very clearly points that out, and no one in the Seventh-day Adventist Church teaches otherwise. That's just false, blatant as day. The one thing that I really find interesting about it is actually in Hebrews 7 verse 7. It actually says, "And without contradiction, the less is blessed of the better." And then it goes on to continue to talk about the two different priesthoods. There's no contradiction in the idea that Jesus is doing Levitical tasks in the heavenly sanctuary and yet is not from the tribe of Levi. There's no contradiction according to the writer of Hebrews. So why is there an issue with him being dressed in that garb when he's not from that tribe? There's no contradiction. If you were going to go that route and talk about the way somebody's dressed, which dictates that they have the wrong Jesus, well, what about the historical attributes of the European artists who portrayed Jesus as a white Caucasian male with long hair, long brown, long blonde hair. That's the wrong Jesus. Do those people have the wrong Jesus? What about the cultures that have decided to portray Jesus as African American? Do they have the wrong Jesus? Obviously, Jesus was a Jew. It doesn't mean that you have the wrong Jesus because of a picture. The Jesus is associated with character, not associated with image. Now, obviously, if I present an image that gives a sinful character, that's the wrong Jesus. However, to have Jesus presented imagery that shows that he's doing a task in the heavenly sanctuary that pardons sin with his own blood, in what way is that the wrong Jesus? I just don't understand it.